Good morning, Panthers. Happy Friday. So, we are still celebrating Women's History Month, and I have a great book for us to learn from today. It's called Shaking Things Up 14 Young Women Who Changed the World by Susan Hood, and it's illustrated by 13 extraordinary women, it says. All right, in our little book jacket says, meet 14 revolutionary young women who, through their persistence and determination, sparked change in the world and paved the way for the next generation of female trailblazers and activists. In these pages, you'll find Mary Anning, who was only 13 when she unearthed a prehistoric fossil. You'll meet Ruby Bridges, the brave 6-year-old who helped end segregation in the South. And Maya Lin, who at 21 won a competition to design a war memorial and then had to appear before Congress to defend her right to create. And there are more young women here, not too much older than you, who will enthrall and inspire you, presented in brilliant and accessible poems by award-winning author Susan Hood. For each of the women in Shaking Things Up, there's a stunning portrait from one of 13 female illustrators, each of whom contributed her magnificent work. So join this celebration of women, and who knows, maybe you'll be inspired to shake things up one day too. All right, and this book has a table of contents in the very beginning, and it talks about all of the different people that are within this book, along with the timeline and the author and illustrator of each of these. So here's our timeline. So we have the early 1780s, heading to 1812. Then we'll learn about someone in 1890, moving over to 1907 or 08, 1914, 1920, 1921, 39, 43, 44, 1954, 1960, 1971, 72, 81, 92, 2011, and 2014. And of course, we've had many, many more women who have been trailblazers and continue to be today. Can you think of some for this year who you would nominate? All right, here we go. It says, as good a fire laddie as many of the boys who bragged about being such. So here's our illustration. And it's taking the heat. This is Molly Williams, the first known female firefighter in the United States. And remember, it's written in a poetic form. So it says, years passed in New York City streets, a blizzard whipped the air. Despite the heavy falling snow, a fire scorched the square. The steeples clanged the town alarm, boy runners spread the news, but firemen were sick abed with influenza blues. A local servant knew the drill, she'd seen what most be done. She hauled the pumper truck by hand, adept as anyone. In raging flames and choking smoke, brave Molly took the heat. With hose and axe, she met the blaze to save the house and street. The fire laddies gave her praise, respect where it was due, dubbed her Volunteer 11, a member of the crew. She glowed with pride, a pioneer. She blazed a path, it's true. Yet women weren't hired here till 1982. 1982. So it says here that Mary, nicknamed Molly Durham Williams, was born in 1747 and died in 1821. She was an indentured servant of volunteer firefighter James Amar. She knew the duties of the Oceanus Engine Company No. 11 from her time cooking for the men and didn't hesitate to help. There wasn't another female fighter in New York City until 1982. More than 160 years later, when Brenda Berkman burned the FDNY with a discrimination lawsuit and won. And our little quote down here says, the greatest fossilist the world ever knew. Buried treasure, Mary Anning, a paleontologist. A jaw, mouth, eye holes, a long skull. What could it be? Mary dug and drilled layers of limestone, uncovering snake stones and crocodile teeth. Fossils sold to save her family from starving. Patiently, persistently, she chipped and chiseled the skull, detecting a backbone, blown bare in a storm. Day after day, she carved, millions of years melting away, revealing ribs, a spine, etching the earth's past in the cliffs. She worked, unearthing fabulous flippers like a dolphin's and a long tail. And An ichthyosaur. An ichthyosaur. Here's how they spelled it, which makes it a little hard to read, doesn't it? All right, penniless after her father's death, Mary Anning combed England's coast selling fossils to tourists. While her brother spotted a skull in 1811, it was 13-year-old Mary who unearthed the prehistoric sea reptile, an ichthyosaur, in 1812. Later, she discovered the first two complete plesiosaurs and pterosaurs, laying the foundation for Charles Darwin's theory of evolution. All right, so an ichthyosaur. All right, our quote here says, if you want to do it, you can do it. The question is, do you want to do it? Woman of the world, this is Nellie Bly, an investigative journalist. This ace reporter, Nellie Bly, delivered headline news by going undercover in jails, ballets, and zoos. A fearless writer of her day, she righted wrongs along the way. What's next, young Nellie wondered? A trip like Jules Verne's book? Around the world in 80 days? No faster, that's her hook. Her manager poo-pooed her plan. A trip like this would need a man. So Nellie told him, start the man. She'd beat him if she could. The manager looked up and said, yes, I believe you would. Bly hopped a ship and told her tale of all she saw on earth. She wrote of camels, temples, jewels with gutsy wit and mirth. She rode on sampans, rickshaws, trains, through blizzards, heat, and monsoon rains. She talked with geishas, captains, priests. She even met Jules Verne. She brought a little monkey home upon her proud return. The world press sang Nellie's praise. She'd beaten Verne by 8 whole days. At 25, young Nellie aced a record-breaking race. No soul on earth had ever sped the globe at such a pace. She went around the world faster than the man that challenged her. And it says Nellie Bly was the pen name of Elizabeth Jane Cochran, who impersonated a mad woman in an asylum, masqueraded as a ballerina, and posed as a thief, all to expose corruption and cruelty in hospitals, theaters, and prisons. She achieved worldwide fame for her race around the globe, clocking in at 72 days, 6 hours, 11 minutes, and 14 seconds. Later in World War I, Nellie went to the front lines, becoming one of the first women war correspondents. I want to swim and I can't swim wearing more stuff than you hang on a clothesline. Turning the tide, this is Annette Kellerman, the champion athlete and inventor of the modern swimsuit. There once was a mermaid queen, lovely and lithesome and lean, who swam afternoons without pantaloons. Her swimsuit was deemed obscene. The lady was quickly arrested. Unafraid, she calmly protested. Who can swim 50 laps wearing corsets and caps? Her statement could not be contested. She streamlined the suit of the day and invented our water ballet. By changing the fashions, she fueled swimming passions as women made waves in the spray. So back then, women, if they wanted to swim, they had to wear pants and a corset and a cap and all kinds of stuff to keep all of their body covered up. And she said, well, that's not fair. And so look, she invented the modern swimsuit. Australian Annette Kellerman wore braces on her legs as a child, possibly due to rickets. Her doctor suggested swimming to strengthen her leg muscles. She went on to win world records, perform daredevil diving stunts, and star in silent films, popularizing a new one-piece bathing suit and ushering in a new age of athleticism for women. I wish to be like Johnny Appleseed, to plant my story seeds across the land. This is the storyteller, and it's Pura Belpre, children's author and the first Latina librarian of the New York Public Library. Oh, and look at how this poem is done. It's kind of an acrostic here. A, author, amiga. B, bilingual book buyer. C, community champion for children. D, defender of the downtrodden. E, empowering educator. F, folklorist, fairy tale teller. G, grower of gifts. H, Harlem history maker. I, inner city innovator. J, joyful Johnny Appleseed. K, known for Perez y Martina. L, legendary Latina librarian. M, multicultural mosaic maker. N, New York narrator for niños. O, outgoing organizer. P, Puerto Rican puppeteer. K, querida. R, role model. S, Spanish story seed sower. T, trilingual translator. She knew 3 languages. U, uplifter of the underprivileged. V, voice of the voiceless. W, weaver of wonder. X, expert in Espanol. Y, young at heart. And Z, zealot. Pura Belpre revolutionized New York City by enticing Spanish-speaking communities inside the previously English-only libraries. She bought Spanish books, conducted bilingual story hours, and celebrated Hispanic traditions. When she couldn't find Spanish tales on the shelves, she wrote them herself, publishing many children's books. So inspiring. Oh, and we learned about this person last week, didn't we? All right, it says, I am broken, but I am happy to be alive as long as I can paint. Broken, Frida Kahlo, artist. Broken from polio at age 6, from a withered foot, childhood bullies shouting, Frida pata de palo, Frida peg leg. Broken again from a bus accident when she was 18, spine, collarbone, pelvis, ribs, leg, and foot smashed. Confined to bed in a full body cast. With an easel on her lap and a mirror above her bed, Frida painted self-portraits. I am the subject I know best. She breathed into the colors, handicrafts, carvings, clothing of her homeland, Mexican, Aztec, Mayan. Art flowed from her fingertips, paintings of skulls, skeletons, stags, flowers, fantasy, fragility. Surrealism is the stuff of dreams and nightmares, but Frida said, I paint my own reality. Mexico, misfortune, monkeys, misery, marriage to Diego Rivera, politics, parrots, passion, pain. Frailty, thy name is woman, wrote Shakespeare, an idea echoing through the ages. Yet Frida embodied strength despite her pain, achieving fame and worldwide acclaim. So Frida Kahlo was born in 1907 and passed away in 1954. Born Magdalena Carmen Frida Kahlo y Calderon, originally wanted to become a doctor, but ill health led to painting. She grew to become a cultural icon and a world-famous artist, the first 20th century Mexican artist to sell a painting to the Louvre Museum in Paris. Today, her paintings sell for more than $15 million each. All right, one of the best we have had. This is Secret Agent Sisters, Jacqueline Niern, an undercover operative, and Eileen Niern, a wireless operator. So for Jacqueline, down, 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 Jacqueline pulls the ripcord, a blind drop into Nazi-occupied France of 1943, codename Designer, her job courier of secret messages, some in invisible ink. She's prepared to swallow them if caught. All the enemy sees is a lady with her knitting, hardly guessing there are radio parts in her makeup bag. She connects farmers, shopgirls, bakers, all members of the resistance who stockpile supplies, weapons, cash, sabotage railways and factories till the Americans arrive, till D-Day is near. And her sister Eileen Niern is a wireless operator, and it says 14 months later, unbeknownst to Jacqueline, her younger sister Eileen, just 22, flies into France into the dark of night, into a life in the shadows, codename Rose. Her job, wireless operator in Paris's Wizard network, tap, tap, tapping Morse code to London, more than 100 messages sent, but look out, her transmitter is discovered. Jacqueline hears rumors of Eileen's arrest by the Gestapo, but nothing more. Is she alive? Then news of Eileen's escape from a prison camp. The sisterhood survives. It was a life in the shadows, but I was suited for it. After the war, I missed it. So these are brave British sisters, Jacqueline Niern and Eileen Niern. They grew up in France and spoke flawless French, a sought-after talent for an SOE, which is a Special Operations Executive agent during World War II. Both were awarded France's prestigious Croix de Guerre Medal and England's Member of the Order of the British Empire Medal for their heroism. Full circle. Every choice we make can be a celebration of the world we want. This is Frances Moore Lappé, an anti-hunger activist. This is the earth that Lappé dreamed, the woman who wrote, eat more greens, broccoli, lettuce, squash, and beans, who built a diet, a veggie cuisine, that keeps our bodies strong and lean, that stops the wasteful meat machine, that feeds a local food routine, that saves the cost of gasoline, that keeps earth's soil and water clean, that helps the hungry grow more beans, cabbage, kale, and collard greens. This is the earth that Lappé dreamed. So Frances Moore Lappé was 27 when she wrote Hunger is Human Made. She proved it takes 2,500 gallons of water and 16 pounds of grain to produce 1 pound of steak. So the world's grain is going to feed cattle, not people. Her book, Diet for a Small Planet, said if we eat local, mostly plants, we can be healthier, prevent world hunger, and help save the earth. All right, do you recognize this trailblazer? The quote says, "Kids know nothing about racism. It's adults who pass it on to kids." It's called A New School, and it's written about Ruby Bridges, civil rights pioneer. Ruby had a new school, William France. Mama wanted the very best, but who were these men with badges? Ruby wasn't sure. Screaming masses flanked the school, men and women holding signs, perhaps a parade for Mardi Gras. Ruby wasn't sure. One marshal said, "Don't look back." Was that a gun at his side? Just what did segregation mean? Ruby wasn't sure. Why did the grown-ups point at her and pull their kids from school? Why were they all so upset? Ruby wasn't sure. Why did she and Mama sit all day in the office by themselves? Had she done something wrong? Ruby wasn't sure. Ruby was banned from the lunchroom, banned from recess every day. Why did her daddy call her brave? Ruby wasn't sure. She spent first grade with Mrs. Henry in a classroom just for one. Where were the other children? Ruby wasn't sure. But Ruby never missed a day with her teacher by her side. Two heroines stood hand in hand, their bond a bridge for sure. Ruby Bridges was just 6 years old when, escorted by 4 U.S. Marshals, she marched into an all-white school in New Orleans and became an icon of the civil rights movement. Only one teacher agreed to take her as a student. So Ruby and Barbara Henry spent first grade together in a class of one, reading, spelling, singing songs, and doing jumping jacks. In the fight to end segregation, little Ruby led the way. Never be limited by other people's limited imaginations. Liftoff. This is about Mae Jemison, the first female African-American astronaut. An African proverb says, "No one shows a child the sky." No need. Head back. It's there in her eyes. Glittering stars, swirling galaxies fill her, thrill her, even though her kindergarten teacher says, "You want to be a scientist? Don't you mean a nurse?" Even though she's a scaredy cat, afraid of the dark, she looks up. Afraid of heights, she looks down. She skins her shins and muddies her dress because she needs to know. A Wrinkle in Time and Star Trek's Uhura say women can be scientists, even rocket scientists. Ignition. All systems are go. 3, 2, 1. Blast off. Mae Jemison was irritated that there were no women astronauts. She skipped 7th grade, started high school at age 12, later earned a degree in medicine, and in 1987 was chosen for NASA's space program. When the Space Shuttle Endeavour launched in 1992, she was one of 7 astronauts aboard. A New Vision. And it says, to fly, we have to have resistance. This is Maya Lin, architect and sculptor. In 1981, entry number 1026 won a competition to build a memorial to the fallen soldiers of Vietnam, a controversial 20-year war where so many had died. When Maya Lin's name was revealed, some were outraged that someone so young, just 21, someone Asian American, someone female, had bested the best architects to honor men killed in Vietnam in a war we had not won. Maya's design was not perched high on a pedestal, but carved into the ground, a long walk down into the earth and then back out again. I imagine taking a knife and cutting it into the earth, she said. Like war, it would create a wound that would heal with time but leave a scar. Maya's design showed not a face or two, but more than 58,000 names, spelling out one by one just how many were lost. It was not made of traditional pure white marble, but black as night granite. Maya Lin knew that polished to a high shine, black granite is a mirror for those who have come to reflect, those present who gaze into the past. After all, what should a war memorial do? Unearth memory, make us cry, see ourselves, and then lead us back up into hope, into the light. So Maya Lin won the blind design competition unanimously, despite the 1,441 entries that included the work of top architects. But when Lin's heritage, age, and gender were revealed, she had to appear before Congress to defend her vision. Today, her memorial is visited by more than 3 million people each year. Failure is just an opportunity in disguise. You learn so much more from your failures than anything else. It sounds like our growth mindset that we practice. Break it down. This is Angela Zhang, scientist and cancer researcher. Science, my friend, I grew up with you. When I was 5, you were a Harry Potter potion kit. I break flowers and leaves to mix in beakers with colored powders. When I was 7, you were my daddy's questions. Why is a manhole cover round? Why do we see rainbows after it rains? I don't know, wasn't an answer. He taught me to break questions down, to chip away at the black boxes of life. When I was 14, I needed a lab and tools my high school didn't have. I wrote to college professors, whittling away at a wall of no, no, no. Till one at Stanford said, maybe, if you pass my test. The catch? Homework, scientific papers to read. I highlighted the words I didn't know, all but the prepositions. Then I remembered, break it down. I dissected the papers word by word. When I was 15, success. I passed the test. At Stanford, I chipped away at the biggest black box of all, a cure for cancer. Science, you are both stone and chisel, and I, your willing apprentice, yearn to carve away life's mysteries as a sculptor chisels marble to find beauty inside. So Angela Zhang was born in 1994. She invented a nanoparticle that can detect cancer cells and deliver medicine without harming healthy cells. At age 17, her work won her $100,000 in the 2011-12 Siemens competition in math, science, and technology, and a trip to the White House in 2012. All right, we've also learned about Malala. There's a moment when you have to choose whether to be silent or to stand up. And this is Malala Yousafzai, the youngest winner of the Nobel Peace Prize. She had been shot. The bullet went into her left eye and out her left shoulder. Flown to safety in England, Malala couldn't forget the beatings, the bodies, the bombs, back in her Paradise Valley of Pakistan. Her beloved school closed for girls. Malala had spoken out. Just 11, she wrote a blog for the BBC. They are misusing the name of Islam, she said. Don't they know that the first word of the Holy Quran is read? Her mother feared for her life. The Taliban don't kill children, they said. They were wrong. The gunman stopped at her school bus and asked for her by name. He fired 3 bullets. One hit its mark. The news ricocheted around the world, but only her fear died that day. She said, strength, power, and courage were born. I am those 66 million girls who are deprived of education. Pens, not weapons, she preached. Books, not bullets. The world heard and bestowed upon her its highest honor, the Nobel Peace Prize. Malala, one young girl who stood up, one voice that would not be silenced. She can change the world. So Malala shared the 2014 Nobel Peace Prize with Kailash Satyarthi from India. She will use the $500,000 prize to build secondary schools in Pakistan. In 2017, she launched the Gul Makai Network, named for Gul Makai, the pen name she used on her BBC blog. It pledges up to $10 million a year to support girls' education in developing countries such as Afghanistan, Lebanon, Nigeria, Pakistan, and Turkey. All right. And then we've got an author's note at the end here that says, never be limited by other people's limited imaginations. And choosing these 14 movers and shakers was the hardest part of the project, which is a good problem to have. And this is by no means an all-inclusive list. With young readers in mind, I decided to focus on girls and young women, a few well-known, some little-known, and a couple mostly unknown as yet. I chose a firefighter, an astronaut, a painter, and 2 secret agents, among others, who have stirred the pot and shaken up stereotypes, all to better the world. That's why I chose to write this book, to celebrate the world I want for my daughters, my new granddaughter, and all the young girls and boys out there. I could never have guessed how much joy I would discover along the way. And this book is filled with so much information, so many different things that you can look and check out. It's added to our library now, so you can check it out virtually as well. And Ms. Shannon, our librarian, will have it ready to pick up at the office for you. So again, it's called Shaking Things Up, and its author is Susan Hood. So how are you shaking things up? What are some new things that you're doing and dreaming about? Can't wait to hear and talk to you guys very soon about it. I hope you guys have a great rest of your Friday, and we'll see you soon. Bye, everyone.